Are you ready for the shocking truth about an expedition swallowed up by the impenetrable jungles of the Amazon? This story completely overturns our conventional understanding of an entire continent's past and calls into question many official documents from the colonial era. For centuries, scholars considered these lands wild and uninhabited. But new data forces us to re-examine every historical fact.
We've grown accustomed to thinking that Europeans brought civilization to the empty jungles, yet the reality turned out to be far more complex and fascinating.
A vast procession of explorers set off into the depths of uncharted territories, hoping to find streets of gold, but encountered a completely different reality. The Spanish conquistador Francisco de Orellana and his companions expected easy prey and the fabulous riches of the mythical El Dorado. Their diaries described incredible things that their contemporaries simply refused to believe for a long time. They mentioned densely populated coasts where one city flowed seamlessly into another for many tens of miles. The soldiers saw vast gardens, cultivated fields, and a developed system of communication between major settlements. For a long time, these accounts were considered merely the product of the imagination of people exhausted by hunger, trying to justify the failure of their mission. Watch the video to the end, and you'll learn how the greatest mystery of 1541 became the most sensational archaeological discovery of our time.
You'll see unique footage of the discoveries that prove the existence of lost empires in the very heart of the jungle.
We'll explain exactly what caused these thriving cities to vanish almost without a trace in just a few decades. Get ready to discover what secrets the deep waters of the Amazon still hide from the eyes of curious explorers. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in the unique financial nature of this colossal expedition. In 1541, Gonzalo Pizarro did not simply assemble a detachment, he created a massive corporate structure with strict rules. 4,000 people signed strict contracts, pledging their property in exchange for future hypothetical profits from the riches they might find. They became hostages to their own ambitions, dependent on the success of this incredibly risky venture. Each participant carried not only heavy equipment on their shoulders, but also the invisible burden of colossal debt obligations. The men's equipment was adapted to the harsh conditions, but it remained excessively heavy nonetheless.
The iron components of their armor quickly became covered in a layer of rust due to constant exposure to fog and precipitation.
Clothing made of thick fabric protected against thorny bushes, but was completely airtight, creating a greenhouse effect. The expedition members were forced to constantly modify their gear on the go, replacing metal parts with sturdy wood. These forced changes in appearance gradually erased the visual distinction between high-ranking officials and ordinary workers. The movement of the column was a grand and at the same time frightening sight. Thousands of people slowly advanced, leaving behind a wide swath in the dense thickets of the foothills. The murmur of voices, the creaking of wooden wheels, and the clanging of tools merged into a continuous din that carried for many kilometers around. Their pace rarely exceeded a few kilometers a day due to the need to constantly clear the path. Nature reluctantly yielded to the onslaught of this vast mass of people, constantly creating new obstacles in their path. Gradually, the landscape began to change, heralding completely different climatic conditions. Rocky slopes gave way to soft soil, which instantly turned into sticky mud after frequent rains. Tall trees with broad leaves formed a dense canopy, blocking direct sunlight from reaching the ground. The air became heavy and saturated with moisture, making it difficult to breathe and slowing the pace of the work with the axes.
The column gradually plunged into the twilight of the tropical forest, losing sight of the familiar mountain peaks.
It soon became clear that the original plan for a straight-line advance had completely failed. Impassable swamps and deep ravines forced the column to constantly change direction, making huge detours. Maps drawn up based on hearsay proved utterly useless in this monotonous green reality. The expedition turned into a slow wandering through a gigantic natural labyrinth, without a clear understanding of the ultimate goal. People were forced to adapt to the rules dictated by the rainforest itself. This expedition became the most difficult test of human endurance in the bureaucratic system of the time. The people pressed forward, driven not only by dreams of glory, but also by the need to justify the funds invested in them. I'd love to hear your perspective on such historical financial ventures. What do you think about this kind of motivation among pioneers? Share your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to regularly access the most in-depth and well-researched historical investigations. Are you ready to learn the truth about how nature thwarts even the most ambitious plans? Faced with an impenetrable wall of vegetation, the expedition was forced to completely rethink its travel tactics. The wide carts got stuck in the soft ground, so they had to be dismantled and the materials repurposed for other needs. Cargo was now transported exclusively on people's shoulders, which greatly increased the physical strain. Every step required incredible effort, turning ordinary walking into an exhausting struggle against obstacles. The numerous streams and small rivers crossing the route posed a particular challenge. Building reliable crossings for a crowd of thousands under time constraints was practically impossible.
People had to wade waist-deep in water to carry heavy bundles of provisions and tools.
Several dozen people boarded the ship, leaving most of the expedition on the shore in a state of limbo. The vessel slowly pushed off, quickly gaining speed as it was swept along by the Amazon's swift currents. Those remaining on the shore watched hopefully as the life-saving ship disappeared around the bend. The wait for the Orellana's return turned into an exhausting ordeal for the main camp. Days turned into weeks, and food supplies were running critically low. People spent their last reserves of strength searching for edible roots and fruits in the nearby thickets. The lack of news gave rise to alarming rumors and undermined discipline within the vast group. The leaders had to make enormous efforts to maintain order in the camp. Meanwhile, the Orellana's ship encountered unforeseen navigational difficulties. The river's current proved so strong that the vessel lost the ability to move backward. Attempts to row against the current yielded no results, only exhausting the rowers. The ship was inexorably carried forward, deep into completely uncharted and terrifying territories.
Returning to the main expedition had become a physically impossible task.
The separation of the expedition became a turning point in this dramatic story. Pizarro, weary of waiting, made the difficult decision to turn the remnants of his detachment back toward the mountains. Their return journey was fraught with unimaginable hardships and came to symbolize the complete failure of the original plan. Of the 4,000 men, only a small fraction managed to make it back to civilization. This catastrophe has gone down in history as a cautionary tale of fatal overconfidence. Meanwhile, the Orellana continued its journey into the unknown. The crew found themselves face to face with the grandeur and dangers of the planet's most mighty river. Do you agree that nature always finds a way to prove its superiority over man? In the next chapter, you will learn how the people aboard the brigantine learned to read the river and what incredible discoveries awaited them ahead. What we found in the old archives about this voyage turns history on its head. Francisco de Orellana's crew developed a unique navigation system without accurate maps or familiar instruments. They learned to read the river like an open book, noticing the slightest changes in the color of the water and the nature of the waves. The current became their greatest ally and the most unpredictable factor on this journey. Every morning began with a careful assessment of the water level and the direction of the underwater currents. This empirical knowledge helped them avoid dangerous whirlpools and collisions with tree trunks hidden beneath the water. Lookouts at the bow of the ship continuously scanned the surface for shoals and dangerous rapids.
A change in the sound of the murmuring water often served as a signal to change course immediately.
During the day, the river's width sometimes reached such dimensions that the opposite bank was hidden in the haze. Under such conditions, navigation was complicated by strong crosswinds. The sails had to be constantly readjusted to keep the ship on course. Huge floating islands made of intertwined roots and earth posed a serious threat to the wooden hull. Maneuvering among these natural obstacles required masterful control of the helm. As they proceeded, the river began to branch into numerous channels, forming a confusing labyrinth of waterways. Choosing the right direction became a high-stakes game of roulette. A mistake could lead to getting trapped in a closed bay or running aground in impassable shallows. The captain had to analyze the current speed in each branch to choose the main channel. It was sailing blind, where experience and intuition made up for the lack of geographical data. Special attention was paid to maintaining the ship's log, where all observations were meticulously recorded. These pages, filled with fine handwriting, became the only proof of the work accomplished. They guarded the paper more than gold, hiding it in homemade waterproof covers made from treated leaves.
Each entry recorded the unique landscapes that the Europeans were seeing for the first time in their lives.
The journal became the most valuable cargo aboard this battered vessel. The crew of the Aureliana pressed forward, entrusting their fates to the capricious currents of the mighty river. Every new bend in the river revealed completely unique, previously unseen coastal landscapes. This incredible journey forever changed the world's geographical maps and the fates of the surviving explorers. If you're inspired by the courage and perseverance of these people in extreme conditions, please support our work. Like this video so we can create more in-depth historical content. A secret passed down from generation to generation has finally been revealed thanks to a careful study of the expedition's journals. Emerging from yet another wide bend in the river, the ship's crew froze in silent amazement. Before their eyes lay a panorama of a vast settlement stretching along the shore for several kilometers. The snow-white facades of the buildings stood out vividly against the backdrop of the familiar, monotonous green wall of the rainforest. It bore no resemblance to the temporary encampments of nomads. It was a true thriving city. Smooth, wide streets descended straight to the water, ending at massive wooden piers. The port's infrastructure was designed to accommodate numerous large vessels simultaneously. Structures resembling spacious warehouses with high roofs rose along the banks. The precise geometry of these buildings attested to a clear urban plan and advanced engineering. European explorers could scarcely believe the reality of such a massive architectural complex deep within the continent. The city's structures were built on artificial embankments that protected them from seasonal flooding. This system of terraces demonstrate a deep understanding of local hydrology and climatic cycles. Canals ran between the embankments, facilitating the movement of goods within the city itself. This logistical network was in no way inferior to, and in some respects even surpassed, its European counterparts of the time. The scale of the earthworks required to create such a landscape demanded the organized labor of thousands of workers. The central squares of the settlement were paved with smooth blocks fitted tightly together. More massive structures were located around the squares, likely serving administrative or public functions. The absence of external defensive walls suggested that this culture felt secure. Wide avenues radiated from the center to the outskirts, like the rays of a giant star. The entire appearance of the city exuded tranquility, order, and a remarkable harmony with the surrounding environment. The materials used in construction also aroused genuine interest among researchers. Hardwood was skillfully worked and fitted together without the use of metal nails. The roofs of the buildings were covered with tightly woven leaves from a special type of palm tree, providing reliable protection from tropical downpours. Some structures featured intricate carved elements on their supporting pillars, demonstrating a high level of craftsmanship. Every architectural detail spoke of centuries-old traditions and accumulated knowledge. However, the most striking thing was that the city seemed completely empty and silent. On the wide avenues, there was not a single sign of movement, not a single sign of active life. The warehouses along the docks stood open, but there was no bustle near them. This silence frightened the Europeans far more than open confrontation. It seemed as though the vast metropolis had frozen in anticipation of something unknown. These silent testimonies of the past made the Europeans reflect on the grandeur of the vanished local cultures. Have you ever wondered how many grand mysteries still lie hidden beneath the dense vegetation? In the next chapter, you will delve deeply into the engineering and architectural features of these lost metropolises. The architectural appearance of the discovered settlements shattered all the familiar stereotypes of the European school of urban planning. The primary building material was not stone masonry, but masterfully crafted wood from ultra-hard tropical species. The craftsmen of this civilization created highly complex beam joints using a system of grooves and wooden tenons. This construction method possessed remarkable flexibility, making the buildings resistant to ground subsidence. The absence of metal fasteners paradoxically extended the lifespan of these gigantic structures. The foundation for every significant structure was an artificial platform consisting of many layers of compacted earth. Fragments of broken pottery and ash were placed inside these embankments, ensuring excellent drainage. This foundation technology protected the structures from the destructive effects of groundwater and mold. The platforms raised residential areas to a safe height during extreme river floods. Wide staircases with perfectly even wooden steps led from ground level to the building entrances. The road network within cities and between settlements was impressive in both scale and quality of paving. The width of the main avenues reached 50 meters, allowing for the transport of massive cargo loads. The road surface was reinforced with a mixture of clay and crushed shells, creating a solid and even surface. Avenues of fruit trees were planted along the highways, providing shade for travelers. These roads stretched for hundreds of kilometers, connecting scattered cities into a single transportation network. The water supply infrastructure demonstrated profound knowledge of hydrodynamics. Clean drinking water was supplied to the cities via a system of enclosed ceramic pipes and open aqueducts. Large artificial reservoirs lined on the inside with waterproof clay were located in the centers of settlements. To drain excess moisture, there was a complex network of underground drains that prevented the streets from becoming waterlogged. Local engineers had perfected water management to an absolute degree. The architecture we saw provided compelling evidence of a highly developed and complex society. These people were able to master the harshest climate without coming into conflict with the environment. Their engineering solutions were based on a deep understanding of the properties of natural materials and the laws of physics. The scale of the construction required strict discipline and brilliant skills in managing vast labor resources. The lost cities of the Amazon represented the pinnacle of urban planning thought of their time. What the government does not want you to know has long gathered dust in the secret archives of the royal libraries. Upon returning to Europe, the surviving members of the expedition presented detailed reports of their incredible discoveries to the court. The diaries were replete with descriptions of endless roads, once crowded cities, and the richest agricultural lands. However, this information did not inspire a joy of discovery among the ruling elite, but rather deep political unease. Recognizing the existence of such an advanced civilization threatened to shatter the colonizers' established ideological worldview. A massive campaign began to discredit the surviving explorers and their travel notes. Accounts of wide roads and artificial embankments were publicly dismissed as the product of an imagination inflamed by tropical fevers. The authors of the diaries were portrayed as fantasists, trying to embellish the results of a financially disastrous expedition. Official chronicles began to describe the Amazon exclusively as an impassable green hell, unfit for life. This artificially created myth took firm root in the European consciousness for several long centuries. The expedition's documents were securely hidden in restricted sections of government archives, with no access granted to scholars. Any attempts by independent cartographers to map the cities mentioned were harshly suppressed by censorship. Financial reports were rewritten to conceal the true scale of the infrastructure they had witnessed. The state apparatus worked to completely erase all memory of the amazing civilization of the builders. The conspiracy of silence became the perfect tool for protecting imperial ambitions on the new continent. Any theories about the possibility of complex cultures existing under such conditions were met with ridicule. The Green Desert ideology hindered objective archaeological research in this region until the very end of the 20th century. The truth patiently awaited its moment beneath a layer of foliage and roots several meters thick. Only occasional finds of pottery would occasionally disrupt the neat picture painted by official historical science. Local residents would periodically stumble upon patches of unusually fertile black soil, but for a long time, these scattered facts did not come together into a coherent and understandable system. Secret archives remained silent, concealing the original diaries from the year 1541. The memory of the great cities lived on only in half-forgotten myths and local legends. The answer to the question of why the truth was concealed lies in banal political intrigues and imperial interests. Do you agree that history is always ruthlessly rewritten by those who hold real power? In the next chapter, you will learn exactly how merciless nature wiped an entire architectural era off the face of the earth. The process of the tropical forest engulfing the abandoned metropolises was rapid and irreversible. As soon as people stopped clearing the roads of sprouting vegetation, nature immediately asserted its claim to this land. Fast-growing weeds and tenacious vines were the first to take root on the flat surfaces of the boulevards. Their powerful root systems began to break through the reinforced surface, reducing the monolith to a scattering of clay and shells. In just a few seasons, the wide thoroughfares had narrowed to barely discernible forest paths. The wooden structures, deprived of regular maintenance and repair, became easy prey to the humid climate. The thatched roofs began to rot and sag under the weight of accumulated rainwater and fallen leaves. The load-bearing columns made of hardwood lasted longer, but even they eventually became covered with a thick layer of moss. Moisture penetrated even the most protected joints, destroying the wood from within. Soon, the majestic facades collapsed, turning into shapeless piles of rotting construction debris. In place of the former squares and community centers, pioneer trees with broad canopies quickly sprang up. They blocked out the sunlight, creating ideal conditions for the growth of even more massive forest giants. The roots of these enormous trees entwined the remains of the foundations, completely destroying their regular geometry. The earthen platforms that once protected the cities from flooding lost their distinct edges. They merged with the natural terrain, forming ordinary hills densely overgrown with impenetrable thickets. Without regular cleaning, the complex system of irrigation canals and aqueducts quickly filled with silt and mud. Water found new paths, eroding the carefully planned agricultural terraces. Artificial reservoirs in city centers turned into ordinary forest swamps covered with duckweed. The fertile black soil became covered with a thick layer of forest litter, obscuring its unique properties. The agricultural infrastructure that had fed hundreds of thousands of people dissolved into the green chaos. Surprisingly, it was the unique composition of the artificial soil that accelerated the process of the forest engulfing the cities. The nutrient-rich, dark earth became the ideal catalyst for the rapid growth of tropical vegetation. Trees in the sites of former settlements grew taller and more robust than in the surrounding wild forest. This paradox led to the territories of the megacities disappearing beneath the densest and tallest canopy of vegetation. Nature used the achievements of human genius to erase the traces of its presence more quickly. Deep wells and underground storage facilities collapsed under the constant pressure of expanding root systems. Ceramic water pipes cracked and crumbled into small fragments. Intricate bas-reliefs on the few surviving wooden pillars were worn away by constant rain and wind. The cities lost their appearance, turning into shapeless undulations in the landscape, indistinguishable even from a short distance. The green ocean swallowed the fruits of centuries of labor at an alarming rate. But progress does not stand still, and the methods of studying the past have changed radically. It turned out that to see what is hidden, one must look not at one's feet, but from a great height. The invention of new methods of remote sensing of the surface has opened a completely new chapter in archaeology. These devices allowed scientists to literally peer through the dense layer of leaves and branches. The green canopy, which had kept its secrets for so long, began to reluctantly give up its positions. A new phase in the study of the Amazon rainforest began with the application of advanced remote sensing technologies. Scientists gained access to tools capable of analyzing the terrain through dense, multi-layered vegetation. Special laser pulses were directed downward, reflecting off the Earth's surface and returning to the sensors. Billions of such reflected signals formed an extremely precise, three-dimensional model of the landscape hidden beneath the forest. This technology made it possible to virtually remove the entire vegetation cover, exposing the region's bare topography. The scan revealed the stunning geometric regularity of the hidden structures. Clear boundaries of vast residential districts were discovered, separated by a network of highways intersecting at right angles. The resolution of the resulting models allowed one to make out even the remnants of small canals connecting neighboring streets. Scientists were able to visually assess the colossal volume of earthworks carried out by ancient builders. The scale of the discovered architecture far exceeded even the wildest expectations of skeptics. Computer algorithms made it possible to distinguish natural hills from man-made mounds with a high degree of certainty. It turned out that many of the elevations have a step structure characteristic of the foundations of large public buildings. Traces of smaller structures were concentrated around these central mounds, forming a classic radial layout. Analysis of surface slopes revealed a highly complex drainage system that protected these complexes from flooding. The engineers of the past proved to be masters of surveying and land planning. The researchers' attention was particularly drawn to the straight lines connecting the various discovered settlements. These thoroughfares, tens of meters wide, stretched in a straight line, ignoring minor obstacles in the terrain. Where the roads crossed swamps, scans revealed the presence of high earthen embankments that served as the foundation for the roads. The road network was designed to ensure the fastest possible logistics between scattered centers. This irrefutably proved the existence of a single centralized authority in the region. Each expedition now set out into the jungle with precise coordinates for specific sites identified on digital models. This greatly increased the efficiency of fieldwork and accelerated the process of studying new discoveries. The forest ceased to be an impenetrable wall, transforming into a transparent dome over a historical museum. Discoveries came one after another, changing the paradigm of human societal development in the tropics. It became clear that the Amazon was not an empty green hell, but one of the centers of global urbanization. These territories sustained the lives of millions of people organized into highly complex social structures. A technological breakthrough allowed humanity to recover a lost chapter of its own history. Digital beams pierced the darkness of the centuries, illuminating the grand legacy of unknown builders. The volume of data obtained is so vast that processing it will take more than a decade. Each new scan reveals new cities, roads, and geoglyphs, expanding the boundaries of known civilization. This work requires a colossal effort from geographers, historians, and big data specialists. The unveiling of the Amazon's secrets has only just begun, promising many more incredible discoveries. The true scale of this lost world boggles the imagination of even the most experienced researchers. The true scale of Amazonian civilization surpasses that of many known ancient empires. The data shows that the discovered cities were not isolated settlements scattered throughout the forest. They were part of a vast integrated system functioning as a single, well-oiled mechanism. The distances between major centers were carefully calibrated and connected by straight highways. Fortified border outposts and observation posts were situated along the edges of this grand network. An impressive feature of the landscape is the vast geoglyphs, giant geometric figures carved into the ground. Squares, circles, and polygons with sides measuring hundreds of meters are found throughout the region. These trenches, several meters deep, are often surrounded by outer embankments made of excavated soil. The purpose of the geoglyphs continues to spark heated debate in academic circles. Some consider them ceremonial centers, while others view them as complex water collection structures. The density of settlement in the central regions of this civilization is comparable to that of modern urban areas. Hundreds of smaller satellite settlements were located between the major metropolises, supplying the capitals with raw materials and labor. The entire territory was completely transformed by humans, from leveled hills to altered small riverbeds. The wild tropical forest was replaced by managed agroforestry systems. People created their own artificial landscape, perfectly suited to their needs. The logistics network is striking in its sophistication and incredible scale. In addition to wide overland roads, civilization actively utilized and modernized waterways. Traces of artificial canals connecting neighboring river basins to shorten travel routes have been discovered. On the banks of these canals lay the remains of a complex port infrastructure with loading terminals. The transportation system ensured the uninterrupted exchange of goods between the most remote regions of this vast country. Judging by the architectural stratification, the social structure of this society was strictly hierarchical. City centers with monumental earthen platforms clearly belonged to the ruling elite and the priesthood. The residential quarters of the common people were located closer to the outskirts and agricultural lands. The size and complexity of the dwellings clearly reflected the status of their owners within the social hierarchy. Such a strict division of labor was necessary for the implementation of such grandiose engineering projects. Studying these megacities changes our perspective on the very concept of a developed society. These people did not build stone pyramids or forge steel swords, but their achievements are colossal. They created a sustainable, high-tech living environment in one of the most challenging climates on the planet. Their legacy is perfect geometry set against the eternal chaos of the rainforest. The lost cities of the Amazon continue to amaze the world with their scale and engineering genius. The expedition of 1541, planned as a triumphant quest for gold, turned into a tragedy and a revelation. Gonzalo Pizarro and his men were searching for the mythical El Dorado, full of the yellow metal, but found something more valuable. They became the first and last Europeans to witness the Amazonian civilization at the twilight of its power. Their journals, rejected by their contemporaries, now serve as an invaluable guide for modern archaeologists. This story demonstrates how blind greed can obscure truly great discoveries. The legacy of these lost cities compels us to rethink our approach to interacting with tropical ecosystems. The ancient builders did not destroy the forest to create pastures. Instead, they transformed it into a vast, productive garden. The technology for creating enriched dark earth is now being actively studied by agronomists around the world. Applying this ancient knowledge could help solve modern problems of soil depletion and food security. A vanished civilization has left us the key to harmonious coexistence with nature. The Amazon can no longer be considered merely the lungs of the planet or a wild nature reserve. It is a vast cultural landscape that preserves the memory of millions of people who lived, worked, and dreamed there. Every new discovery made with LiDAR restores these nameless builders to their rightful place in world history. Their ghost towns serve as a silent rebuke to our arrogance and belief in the exceptionalism of modern civilization. We are only beginning to understand how complex and diverse our planet's past was. Scanning technologies continue to improve, promising new and astonishing discoveries in the very near future. Scientists are preparing to virtually unearth new layers of history beneath the dense forest canopy. Perhaps we will find answers to questions about the origins of these people and their social organization. Every excavated ceramic bowl or identified stretch of an ancient road adds a piece to this gigantic historical puzzle. A lost world is gradually taking shape, emerging from the shadows of centuries of oblivion. We see that the story of the expedition into the Amazon jungle turned out to be far more complex and interesting than a simple search for gold. These people witnessed the existence of an incredible civilization that was able to conquer the most challenging climate on the planet. Their architecture, engineering systems, and agricultural achievements amaze even today's highly qualified specialists. The conspiracy of silence could not forever hide this majestic truth from future generations of researchers. What other historical mysteries do you think might be hidden beneath the impenetrable forest? Suggest topics for future videos that you'd like to see on our channel in the comments. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on new exciting historical investigations.